Okay, we are recording now. So to review, a DNA is the basic unit of heredity. A gene is a whole piece of DNA, and a chromosome is made of many different genes. And then, as you should remember from your karyotype lab last week, was it last week or the week before? Either way, our chromosomes have these stripes on them. They're called bands. And each chromosome, 1 through 23, has a different banding pattern or striping pattern. And it also each has a twin, or it should. Sometimes there are triplets, and that spells out trouble, or a syndrome of some sort. So genes, each gene has a specific location on a pair of homologous chromosomes. There can be many different versions of the same gene, and those different versions are called alleles. That's how you say that word, allele. And we have 2 alleles for every single one of our traits. Where do we get them? Put it in the chat. Where do you guys think we get each allele from? Or should I say, who do we get them from? Our parents, yep. We inherit one from mom, one from dad. One from our egg donor, one from the sperm donor. And like I said, many different versions of the same gene. So we use eye color as an example. That's a lot of hearts, Daniel. So we know there are several eye colors, not just one. Not everybody has the same eye color. Everybody has a gene for eye color, but the different versions are called alleles. So phenotype, this is one of those vocabulary words you just have to learn and go with because we use it a lot. A phenotype is the physical expression of a trait or the things we can actually see about ourselves. So this is the fancy science word that just means our physical characteristics. So eye color, hair color, height, skin color, gender, hair texture. These are just all of our physical characteristics, and they are known as our phenotype. So when you hear the word phenotype, you should think physical characteristics. You should match those 2 PH words together. Genotype, which is a similar word, but refers to a pair of alleles. So just talking about your genes inside of your cells. We have different genotypes for all of our traits. So we have a genotype for eye color, a genotype for hair color, a genotype for height, genotype for skin color. And this chapter focuses on simple genes, one over the other. So dominant versus recessive, strong versus weak. Alleles can be dominant or recessive. A dominant allele will always show. So if one parent has a dominant allele, it will always show. A recessive allele will be masked when paired with a dominant allele. It's weaker, it hides behind it. And a recessive allele will only be shown if there are 2 copies in the genotype. Remember, we have 2 copies of every single gene. We get them from our parents. And to actually have the recessive allele, both of our parents have to give us those recessive alleles. So we talk about eye color as an example. Now, eye color does tend to be a little bit more complicated than just brown over blue. But right now, we're learning the basics. Just like when we talked about male and female chromosomes. Learning the basics, and we can move on to the exceptions. But we say that brown eyes are dominant. They are stronger. And the blue-eyed allele is actually weaker. That's why it's less common. So if a person with brown eyes has a child with a blue-eyed person, that brown eye will dominate the blue. And that child will have brown eyes. The only way for a person to get blue eyes is to get 2 recessive alleles from each parent. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean both parents have to have the blue eyes. They just have to have the recessive allele. I have 2 brown-eyed parents. I have a sister with blue eyes. We'll talk about how that happens. But right now, we're just talking about dominant versus recessive. Dominant allele will always show. To get the recessive allele to show, both parents have to give it. So if you have brown eyes, especially you girls, you think about this all the time. Girls always say, I want a blue-eyed baby. I want a green-eyed baby. If you have brown eyes, it is likely your child is going to have brown eyes. Especially if everybody in your family has brown eyes too. My grandparents both have blue eyes, so that trait skipped a generation. So on paper, genotypes are represented by letters. The dominant genotype is represented by capital letters. So if we're talking about a brown-eyed allele, we are using a capital B. The recessive genotype is represented by lowercase letters. So the blue-eyed allele would be represented by a lowercase b. This is just how we put things together in terms of genetics. So you will be asked to write a genotype. And if I ask you write the genotype for this, it is just going to be in the form of letters. So genotypes are made of 2 alleles. Like I said, one from mom, one from dad. And this is where the homo and the hetero come in. It's good to remember the difference. So we say alleles are homozygous when they are both the same. They're either both dominant or both recessive. So a homozygous dominant genotype, like I said, dominant, capital letters. So it would be 2 capital letters. I just use A as an example. We'll use all kinds of letters this chapter. The 2 alleles can be heterozygous or different. which means they're just different versions of the same letter, just like alleles are different versions of the same gene. One capital and one lowercase. So in big red letters at the bottom of the slide, there's a sentence that says important. Yes, you should write that sentence down. Every year I get people asking, should I write this down? Yes, it says important. Write it. So important, when a question asks for a genotype, the answer is going to be two of the same letters. We do not mix letters right now when we are learning the basics. The only difference is the version, capital versus lowercase.